Hi everyone, welcome to the April 2023 edition of Farsight's Human News, the remote viewing news forecast show that tells you what is going to happen, not what did happen. I'm Aziz Brown from Farsight. Now, before I recap what happened with our last Human News forecast, I want to announce that our next major mysteries project will be the cigar-shaped UFO. What, who, and why? That's right. You see, we have been taking our own videos of UFOs, and one of the reasons for us to do mysteries projects is to use remote viewing to resolve mysteries. Well, when we capture great videos of a UFO with our own cameras, then that is a mystery. What is it? And if it is an extraterrestrial ship, who is in it and where did they come from? Now, we just started a new show on FarsightPrime.com, Identified Flying Objects, where we examine objects captured with our own cameras. The show is hosted by Intysam, and our technical expert on that show is Lincoln Lounsbury, who was a longtime air traffic controller in some of the busiest and most prestigious airports in the U.S., including Washington, D.C. He has also published articles in leading industry journals, and he continues his work as an aviation consultant. Our first episode on this new show, Identified Flying Objects, was published in March 2023, and he analyzed our footage of a cigar-shaped UFO. That UFO flew over Atlanta multiple times. So, we have lots of good footage of the craft. According to the analysis, it was going over 22,000 miles an hour. It was clearly not a bug. But the question still remains, what was it? It turns out that the cigar-shaped configuration is a common UFO shape, so this type of craft is not unique to the Atlanta area. So, it is particularly interesting to know more about it. Well, we sent 4 of our own highly trained remote viewers to look at that UFO, to go inside of it, and to follow it back to where it came from. What we've found out is absolutely amazing. Moreover, all of the remote viewers worked their sessions totally blind, and none of the viewers communicated with one another during the data collection phase of the project. And on April 15th, 2023, in about 2 weeks, you will find out what they found out. The cigar-shaped UFO. What, who, and why. This is a project that you will really want to see. Clear photographic evidence offering totally verifiable physical data, plus remote viewing data that clearly describes the photographic evidence, collected under totally blind condition, and then dives in deep to learn the full story of that UFO. April 15th on FarsightPrime.com, it's important. Trust me on this, you will be surprised with what we found out. And now for an announcement of a treat. Courtney Brown, Farsight's director, is now using an Instagram page to post short UFO videos that we take with our own cameras, plus other behind-the-scenes stuff. The videos are normally much less than a minute, and Instagram is a great place for that type of thing. Short videos that can be easily watched with a phone. Also, it is easy for our director to post such videos no matter where he is in the world, whether that be some remote beach or even in Africa. If you are new to Instagram, now is a good time to start. His Instagram page is simply Courtney Brown Farsight, all one word with no spaces. He will be posting new videos up each week that will give you a sneak peek preview of the stuff that we are investigating. And some of the stuff that he has already on that page is pretty amazing. Again, Courtney Brown Farsight on Instagram. Be sure to follow the page. Shifting gears, let's reflect for a moment. A wonderful part about regularly partaking in some practice that involves the focused, deliberate, and consistent development of psychic abilities, of which remote viewing, meditation, energy work, and many other psychic modalities may be considered, is the steady decay of fearful emotions and subconscious avoidance that hides behind all aspects of loss. Whether that be the loss of one's self as a collection of habits, attachments, and identity, or the loss of physical life. In Frank Herbert's Dune, the protagonist, Paul, describes an experience rich in nonlinearity, slipping into true existence, a world of similitudes, where similitudes are instances where one thing closely resembles another, a concept that in this context can be simplified to the nature of all that is, as we are all that is, ever was, and ever will be. When rooting one's awareness in that world of similitudes, a world of expansive likeness amongst all things, the defining factor about it is the lack of limitations. This channel is about remote viewing, so I'll speak from a remote viewer's perspective. The remote viewing process ushers a mind along a steady path to experience a world without limitations. Step by step, experience by experience, the awareness is led to understand that it is not imprisoned behind the eyes of corporeal flesh. Efforts threaded with consistency are immediately recognized as tools to create greater and grander strides from which limitation as a concept begins to wither away. I can confidently say that this is a formula not unique to remote viewers. Whether you root yourself in purely meditative practices or some other form of energy work, you are in those moments redefining the limits of your life's experience. The goal, though, is seeing that formula, where your steady application of these experiences, coupled with critical thinking, produces better and more profound results, and thus fear of a great many things begin to fade from your life. Fear of death, fear of loss, fear of change. Imagine for a moment that you are looking out at this state of limitless expansion from a distance. You are not nestled within it, but you can see it as an intellectual concept, spoken about, but not yet truly experienced. This is no comfortable place to stay. The potential for doubt, fear, and confusion are just too great. Because without connecting with and experiencing oneself, one has no hope of truly knowing and mastering oneself. You have to jump in. Paul, the protagonist of Frank Herbert's novel Dune, mentions in his reverie about nonlinearity how fear can emerge from this point of standing due to the nature of being limited when looking at the limitless. Because as you experience nonlinearity, you begin to know that you have no limits. And as you experience infinity beyond your purely physical state, it becomes more and more apparent that it is no longer appropriate to say, I am I, and I am here. Except, I would add, in the playful sense of a game. As you practice psychic abilities with applied effort paralleling regular consistency, you grow. And as you grow, your fear and limitation begin to fade. That fear rooted in vectors overly reliant on dogmatic acceptance of separation. And when said fear ceases to have a logical leg to stand on, and then collapses, unconditional love and playfulness and harmony naturally emerge in its place. And now, for this month's Human News Reports. Let's touch base with how we did last month. 3 of our remote viewers, Intysam, Kahmia, and Shantae, perceived urban environments that were basically in states of panic, chaos, and what appeared to be wartime destruction. Russia increased its bombardment of Ukraine in March, and that was a major focus of the international news. However, my own session focused on a major confrontation between the police or military and urban residents, and that unambiguously looked like the major protests that have been happening in Israel in March. The protests rocking Israeli society right now have been caused by new legislation that the ruling parties want to pass that would change the independence of the Israeli judiciary. This has been a very big and widely covered international story during the month. Finally, Yeme Jeaneé described what appeared to be an earthquake. Unfortunately, March was another time with a large earthquake, this time a 6.8 magnitude earthquake in Ecuador on the 18th of March. Major damage resulted with approximately 450 injuries and 14 fatalities. Additional injuries and fatalities occurred in Peru for that same earthquake. Moving on, For those of you who want personalized instruction in remote viewing, Yeme Jeaneé, Intysam, and now Shantae are teaching remote viewing both individually and in groups. Our methods are sufficiently complex that we use pre-printed templates for our sessions. Yeme, Intysam, and Shantae can work with you individually or in groups as you learn to use these methods. Our approaches address a wide range of applications that we do here at Farsight, including investment evaluations and forecasting. We do lots of stuff that nobody else does, and it is a big subject. But for those of you who are interested, Yeme, Intysam, and Shantae will show you how we do what we do. Be patient in learning any of our methods. Nothing that we do was learned in a day. Yeme Jeaneé has also finalized the structure for her telepathy course using the new Farsight telepathy templates that we use here at Farsight. She is now signing up students who are interested in learning how to use the Farsight's telepathy procedures. Also, understand that when Yeme and Intysam and Shantae teach remote viewing, no one at Farsight gets any financial benefit from this. Yeme, Intysam, and Shantae do this entirely on their own. Remember also that there is a large collection of instructional videos on farsightprime.com. So, how do you hear about all of our activities that we do here at Farsight so that you can participate and get the latest when they happen, including our live streams? So, to start with, we use our email list and YouTube to make our major event announcements. So there are two things that you need to do. First, you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel and remember to click on the notifications bell that appears after you subscribe. That is the only way that YouTube will notify you about our new events, especially our live stream events. Just subscribing doesn't actually do anything. The notification bell is the important part. But that only notifies you of the things that we release on YouTube. To be notified about the things that we release on farsightprime.com, which you can watch using our Apple and Android apps on the web and on your home TV, you need to subscribe to our free email newsletter found on our website at farsight.org. You can also allow our apps to notify you of our new releases on farsightprime.com. Be sure to do all three things. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Farsight, and remember to click on the notifications bell, and then subscribe to our free email newsletter that you can find on our website, farsight.org. And finally, go to the settings of our app and allow it to give you notifications of our new releases on farsightprime.com. The links for our YouTube and our newsletter are in the description area below this video, and the app is on your phone. Those are how we announce what we do. We never send out spam, and we never give our subscriber list to anyone else for any other purpose. Now, let's move on to this month's Human News Forecast for April 2023. Remember, we could always be wrong, and all remote viewing must be seen as an experiment, not a certainty. But look at the data for yourself, make your own decisions, and then let's watch the month roll out to see what actually happens. These remote viewing reports are amazing to watch, so it is best for you to watch them yourself without me trying to explain them in advance. So, let's begin our forecast for April 2023. I will return after all the reports are presented to help pull everything together.
All right, so for this target, I have an urban environment. The land here is pretty much level. And I'm picking up one structure that is dominant. There's multiple structures, however, this one particular structure is dominant. It has certain shapes like these, with multiple other structures, kind of like a cityscape. The temperature here is cool. And this urban environment also has quite a bit of foliage around. And it is a land-water interface. So back here, I'm seeing a lot of water. So the focus for this particular target seems to be this dominant structure, and I'm seeing that there are lines on top of it. There's a crowd of subjects, a lot of movements happening within the structure. So I'm just going to zoom in, because when I direct my attention to move to the target activity, this is where I go. All right, now moving to this dominant structure, I'm getting that it's quite circular. The top, I'm not quite sure if it's a triangle. I think from a distance I can see a triangle, but when I'm inside it, I'm mostly seeing like a curvature. And this curvature also has, when I look at the top, it has like a grid type pattern to it. And this structure, the main color I'm seeing here is blue and white. However, you know how glass structures can also have this blue hue to it? I think that's what I'm seeing, and when I touch it, it's quite smooth. And then down here, there are, it looks like there's also a pattern here of like, seeing kind of little squares. So obviously a big deduction here will be like a stadium. There's so many people here. So I'm sensing subjects around here. Deducting a stadium because of the size of this structure as well as the subjects inside. And there are also subjects down here. And it feels like because there's a lot of like movement and activity, mainly coming from the subjects, that it's even almost, it's translating into energetics in some sort, but I'm also sensing some energetics that are kind of one-directional. It's like a kinetic one-directional type energetics. But when I probe into the target activity for this session, it's a lot of it is coming from the subjects, and it feels like these subjects are moving in one particular direction. So either moving together in one direction or moving away from something, and the movement is quite rapid in pace. So I was also deducting something like a stampede because of the sheer number of subjects and the movement happening here. And yeah, there's movement, but also in some areas of this, there's a lack of movement. So in one side of this large structure, there's a lack of movement where it's kind of like very, very still. Something else, there is a commonality with what the subjects are wearing, almost uniform type. I'm getting white and blue with what the subjects are wearing. Now moving to the target event, what is the event that is occurring here? I'm sensing that the event is structured within the movement of the subjects. It's a mass movement happening within the structure in this environment. I can sense that there is something energetic here, although I feel it very faintly, but that kind of sets into motion this mass movement of the subjects. And then my consciousness is drawn to a few subjects, and it feels like there is commotion happening between these few subjects. All right, so now let me just get a little bit more information. I'm going to do a collective deep mind probe on this whole environment. Okay, so I'm picking up that these subjects are in a state of shock. And it looks like their attention is drawn to a certain activity happening here. These subjects can't believe that like this is really happening. So there's a sense of shock towards that, but also a lot of excitement. And I'm thinking it's like maybe it's adrenaline. I can sense that some subjects also have a sense of amusement. I don't know if that's particularly the right word here, but they're like, huh? You know, almost the main theme is like they can't believe this is happening. Whatever it is that sets these subjects in motion, they're like, what? Like they did not expect this to happen at all. And that's what I have for this session.
Starting off, I have level topography. I have a really large surface structure on the base surface as well. So it's kind of in like, I don't know, it kind of looks like a warehouse or like a barn, you know, something like really big and like one large space for the most part. There are subjects inside of this structure, and there are subjects on the base surface outside of the structure as well. There's also this thing that's next to the structure. It kind of looks like a tower or something, and I can feel energetics that kind of radiate off of it. So some sort of power tower, but that's what's here. I don't really hear a whole lot of sounds. It feels very quiet. This land is like man-made, but also there is natural land surrounding it. And overall, I'm seeing a lot of like grays, cream, white colors, just very light colors here. And temperature-wise, it's feeling a little moderate to cool temperatures. Next, I have a subject that seems to be on the base surface. This subject in particular feels like it's slightly outside of the structure, but it's like in some sort of containment box. And it feels like it's like an energy containment box. Like it just feels somewhat charged. And then there's a subject inside. The subject feels like a male subject. And they also feel like there's something about the subject that feels like it's like he's an empty slate, or his mind is very blank. It feels like almost like a test dummy type of subject. And the subject is like right outside of this structure, and it seems to be coming towards the structure, so he's being transported to this structure inside of some sort of containment box. For my next visual, I have, again, this level topography here, and I'm inside of a structure, and so inside this structure, there's like kind of a roundish looking area. It's very dark in the background. It's like there's subjects here, but they're hidden in the darkness of the background. But there are subjects here, and they seem to just be like posted up. But they are observing, and they are not speaking a whole lot. There's thoughts happening. There seems to be a lot of like mental activity, but as far as like physical activity, subjects moving around, like nobody's really moving right now. Again, I have this subject here, right? It's now inside of the structure, but he seems to be standing in front of some sort of box. But this box also feels like it's on, or it has some sort of power generator within it. And I say this because it feels like while the subject is standing inside, it's like downloading things to the subject or changing the way the subject almost perceives life or himself. It definitely feels like the subject went from not having like any thoughts to a subject trying to have specific thoughts. It's very hard to explain, but basically, you know, like it's like an empty subject, and then some sort of personality is like trying to be downloaded to it, or something within its mental brain is like attempting to be changed by this machine. There's other things inside this room, just like, you know, random kind of structures, boxes, tools, objects, you know, just kind of sitting around in this room. So and then the subjects here as well. And one more view of this structure that I'm seeing is like, you can kind of see it from the top. So it's almost like if the roof was missing from the structure. Just really big, large windows, large door, and larger rooms inside. Scattered background structures. There's scattered background structures kind of just like back here. I'm sure it's has something to do with this main structure, but they just feel like smaller structures that are kind of in the background and surrounding this structure. Other containment rooms, maybe. There's a lot of smoke and energetics kind of surrounding this place as well. So there seems to be something that's letting out, some sort of power structure here, letting out energetics. So, moving on to the target event. Here, the target event, I have inside of a large structure, a subject, multiple other subjects. These subjects feel like they're mixed between like scientific research type ideas, but then it's like almost when things are like being created in a sense, you know what I'm saying? Like chemistry, but biology, some biochemistry stuff going on here. And it feels like these people are very much so experts in their field, and they're trying to create something. Seems like this is some sort of what word do I want to use? It's like a presentation. There you go. So they're presenting some sort of machine. They're trying to see if this machine works on this subject. Feels like it's some sort of mind-altering machine. Not necessarily like mind control, but like the idea that this machine can alter the brain and brain waves and maybe how subjects perceive reality. Moving on to the cause of the target event, I'm getting this sense of like biological advancement, technological advancement, just overall a species trying to innovate and create something new. It does feel like it has something to do, again, with brain activity, and it does feel like this machine is not necessarily being created to be malicious or, hurt other subjects. It really genuinely feels like it's been created to help other subjects. Now, which group of subjects, I don't know, but it's definitely being created to help somebody stay here, like mentally, you know what I mean? Because the way this person feels like they're just gone. Like, I'm talking about like a clone, an empty subject, to almost the brain being flashed to the sense that they have almost like a different sense of consciousness. I don't know how to explain it. But this is the same person. It's not like they're taking somebody else and putting them in their body. It's like this subject here is something wrong with this subject, and when we put them into this machine, the machine is trying to fix whatever is wrong with said subject. The last thing I want to say is that this does feel like a very, 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 very private event. You were invited because you had something to do with this, or you're an investor of some sort, so you're trying to get people to invest into this machine, invest into their ideas, and this does seem like some sort of private showing, private event. It's in the middle of nowhere. It looks like it's in some really big structure, like a house or, like an industrial-sized building. And like I said, everybody in here feels like an expert in their field. This definitely feels like it's a testing opportunity. It's not the first test they've done, but this is like one of the first ones they've done in front of other people maybe. But yeah, that is all I have for this target.
I've got a lot of land, hills, both natural, man-made, level with some peaks, foliage structures on the surface and not on the surface of non-surface structures, I've got subjects everywhere. They're everywhere. I feel like I'm in a large city with nearby mountains that are visible mountains or peakish. Loud noises. I've got some water, remnants of some water. The subjects seem to be upset, and I'm getting the sense and the energy of trashing the place, like of being trashed, or a deduction of looting. I hear a lot of sounds, shattering, loud blaring horns, blaring noises, subjects running, lots of high energy, sirens. I see fires, subjects all over the place. I see this upward movement. Also energetics. I can smell the heat that's here. Something erupts or something explodes, and it's disrupted. It's disrupted, causing a friction of some sort. Subjects are scattered about. Movement, motion, fear, angst. I see structures, big structures that have energetics surrounding them, lots of energy, a vibration of some sort, near a mountain as well. This is near the mountain that I see. Vibrational energy of some sort. Energetics, multi-directional. There's this structure is where this main event is happening. There's a structure here, tall. It's the main event. I'm hearing booms, booming, boom sounds. Something happened. It involuntarily, a structure, there is something going on with the structure that is very dangerous and destructive. I get bad energy from this. It's just bad, energetic, swirling around. Movement is everywhere. Subjects, non-surface structures, surface structures, just movement from all these things. Energetics, explosions. People breaking, things are breaking, being broken. It's like they're breaking the city, terrorizing the city, crashing, screaming, loud, booming, aggressive, so much static and friction, so much energy, hate, anger. Some subjects are hurt, maybe even dying. There are cloud dynamics, a good moderate temperature here. The structures are hurt. I'm getting a sense of fire, a blaze, chaos. Again, possible death, lots of sounds, breaking, crashing, explosive, smashing. I have a deduction of fireworks, but this does not seem necessarily pleasant unless the fireworks are also happening and then there's chaos and destruction. Or, boom. I don't know. I'm deducting fireworks. I've also deducted terroristic. I have a deduction of riot. I have a deduction of destruction. I see a large building being destroyed, disturbed in some fashion. It's not pretty. It's not pretty at all.
Hi everyone. For my first visual, I have a hallway, sort of a long curved hallway, and it is full of subjects. So these are all normal human looking subjects walking through a hallway. They all seem like they have some sort of a little bit of a uniform on or something like that, sort of dullish clothes and stuff like that. And either way, multiple subjects moving through a hallway. Let's move on to the next visual. Okay, so in the next visual, I am seeing multiple structures in this environment, and these subjects actually definitely do have a uniform on. The other ones, it sort of kind of looked like maybe a uniform or just at least similar color hues or something with their attire, but these ones definitely have a uniform on, so that label definitely applies more to these new subjects. There is also an object. It's sort of an angular object that these subjects are surrounding, and these subjects all have objects in their hands, sort of like a long object. They also all have headgear, these subjects, so uniformed, armored headgear subjects, all surrounding this object, this angular, darker, dull hues object. As well as previously we had that hallway. That hallway was quite dim. I do not see where that hallway would show up in the second visual, but in the second visual we are definitely not inside a structure of any sort. We are outside in an urban looking area with these artificial or man-made objects are all around, or one main one that's the center focus of these subjects right here. Okay, moving on. All right, so zooming out, it seems like there's some slightly irregular topography. Here we have sort of the urban area space, just multiple structures. And here we have the single structure that's of interest to this group of subjects that are sort of surrounding it. And I sort of get this focus like they're focusing on something that way. I'm not quite sure what it is. I don't really see anything over here. I'm just noticing like foliage, more natural stuff around, but it seems like just there's a general focus by the subjects over here to look in that direction. So that's basically all I'm noticing so far. Let's move on. Okay, so basically I'm noticing here we have that urban area once more, and the structure of interest, multiple subjects, armored headgear with objects around, and I'm also just noticing a projectile. It just seems like it is a sort of a cylindrical shaped projectile, and it is rocketing out from this boxy, angular, artificial, man-made object or structure like shape that is the center of in the center of all these subjects that have the armored headgear. So that looks like that. That's basically what I'm seeing so far. So same scene as before, there's just a projectile being shot in the air. That's the gist of it. Moving on. Okay, so moving back to a previous sketch that we had earlier, basically I'm getting a bit more detail of this object. It seems like it's a bit bigger than how I've described it, and it does seem like it has sort of like a barrel or something on it. There's a boom sound, sort of an explosive thing, and there we have this object that's sort of just been propelled out of this this man-made object. So that's basically what's going on. If just to zoom back in to the actual source of this activity at this target, looks like that. However, I don't see this object going off and hitting like the hillside right next to the environment that they're in, which is where I thought they were focusing their attention. Well, let's zoom out a little bit more and see where this object is heading. Where's it going towards? Because right now it just looks like it's shooting off into the sky, and I don't really know what they're aiming at. Okay, so moving now towards where this object is going, I'm really seeing it go pretty far. I'm seeing a boat-like structure. It's just a structure on water. That's really the best way I can describe it. It's a structure on water. And it just seems like it shoots right off of the land area that they're at and just plops right into this watery space. It just seems like it gives off a big wave. I mean, other than that, I mean, I just see it gets rocketed out with a lot of energetics from this land-based location with these multiple structures around it, multiple subjects with the armored headgear around this object, this man-made object, shooting off this projectile. The projectile flies through the sky and way off into the distance, and then it just plops down into this really expansive water that is not in the immediate area of where it started. It goes pretty far. So yeah, the only thing around here that I see is maybe a little bit of land over here, but other than that, just this structure on water is the only thing that I'm noticing. So that pretty much is the gist of what happens here at this target.
For my first visual, I have a base surface with irregular topography. I have mountainous natural land here. The air here seems like I have cool temperatures, but it also seems like the air here is like has a lot of moisture in it, or like humidity. Mostly natural land, but I'm seeing like the land here has a very hard rocky texture, but I am getting these like really hard solid, like it feels like kind of metallic structure that's kind of mixed in with the natural land here. Deduction, it's like some type of support structure, something really hard and solid. And then I have some cloud dynamics here. Next, zooming out, like I have this very natural environment here, a lot of mountains and natural land. Then kind of moving out a little further, like there's more natural land, kind of a moderate amount of foliage here. Seeing a lot of greenish blue hues in the area, and then extending further beyond, I'm seeing what feels like it's a lot of man-made land and multiple structures in rows, what could be like it kind of reminds me of like a suburban type of area, like just a lot of similarly shaped structures kind of extending out here as well. The structures here are fairly large, but still they all just look really similar. Yeah, so. Next, I am picking up one like subject that's standing out to me here, more like in the man-made area. This subject is a male subject, but has more of like a feminine appearance, but this subject feels like a male. But the way they present themselves, like seeing kind of long, curly, dark hair, The subject has a skin tone, like brown complexion, and the facial features just look, yeah, more feminine. Deduction also could say this subject has some like, maybe even like makeup or some like some way that they've exaggerated their facial features to really stand out. But again, this is a male subject. And like body shape, they kind of have more of a, maybe I'd say like average to somewhat small top part of their body, but the bottom half seems to be like more, like a little heavier or thicker look to them. So yes, this is kind of the main subject I'm seeing. And the clothing is very like tight, kind of form-fitting clothing. I'm seeing like kind of bluish or grayish hues for the clothing, and it's like kind of long sleeves. Yeah. Not really like layered clothing, but just long sleeves, long pants. Yeah, so doing a deep mind probe of this subject. This subject is feeling definitely a little down, like disappointed. Disappointed in themselves specifically, like some actions that they did, maybe like regretting something that they did, or feeling inadequate, feeling like they haven't done enough. But the subject is not feeling super confident, super good about themselves. And as I'm seeing, like, I'm seeing next, just a very large structure that's like located in this area, and I see this subject inside. I'll call this like subject A, I guess. So on the base surface, kind of outside, seeing like a little bit of foliage here, and the subject's inside this structure. It's a very large, I'd say it has at least 2 levels to it, and separate rooms that subjects seem to be like gathered in specifically. And then I do see subject A like in one of these rooms here with these other subjects. So just kind of walking around that structure, let's see, kind of like, okay, it's like there's like a room here with subjects, and a room here with subjects, and then subject A is in like one specific room, and like you can only access this one room, it seems, by like going through either one of these rooms. The other thing I'm noticing is that the subjects in each room, like, it doesn't feel like a residential space, but like say the subject in this room, they seem to all have like some sort of close relationship to the most part, like they know each other. And then subjects in this room, like they know each other, but the subjects in a different room don't really know each other that well. So, yeah, I guess what I'm noticing is a kind of strong connection between the subjects that are in this room with subject A together. Yeah. And this seems like mostly more of like the entrance that you would go in. Yeah, so next I'm seeing just kind of a movement of subjects from one structure directly into a different structure. So like a little more detail as I'm seeing like what is this original structure with a lot of different subjects inside. There's a specific group of them that seem to be kind of moving together towards another structure that I wouldn't say it feels similar. Definitely not. Like there's no other subjects inside. Like this is an empty structure, but the subjects in this group are all feeling the same, like a collective deep mind probe of these subjects that are moving to the structure feel kind of like subject A. Subject A is a part of this group, by the way, but the general feeling of subject A, like being disappointed and not feeling good about themselves, this whole group of subjects feels that individually as they are moving to this new structure away from these subjects. And my deduction is that it feels like they're being banished or separated intentionally because of like some actions that they've done. It's like this group is like, yeah, you guys can't be here anymore. Like yeah, you gotta go. That's what it's seeming like. Like these subjects here are aware that subject A and the similar subjects in this group are disappointed in themselves and maybe regretting their decisions, but they don't have sympathy for them like at all. So I'm seeing subject A also being moved in like different, like moving kind of in different areas. Like I see them in the structure, but I'm also seeing them in like a vehicle, kind of a large vehicle, maybe like a bus or like some type of like public transportation that can carry multiple subjects. And I see this moving on the base surface throughout this area, like passing by these similar structures. The vehicle, it does definitely seem very old, not like on its last leg old, but it's not a desirable mode of transportation is what it feels like. But I have these subjects here. It's possibly it's not their choice technically that they're being moved, but due to their actions, which I guess was their choice, that's why they have to leave. So I'm also seeing, like after I see the subject being moved, subject A being moved, I see them in a separate kind of individual structure just by themselves. And the subject's like laying down. Subject A is alive here, just not like a lot of physical activity from them. And it seems like they're kind of just in like a very reflective like mindset, and it just subject A seems like full of regret. But what I'm seeing like the thing that subject A has done here, it definitely has to do with these subjects. And as I do like a collective deep mind probe of the subjects that know closely subject A, it's like subject A did something that was very not genuine. Like this subject seems like they typically try to like get over on people, or not, just not a trustworthy. Subject A is just not a trustworthy person. But the subjects that were around them kind of knew this, and it's like they could see through some of the things subject A was like presenting, but still subject A was able to like do something to hurt or betray these subjects around them. And what it feels like is this group that was also like had to leave with subject A, it kind of feels like they collectively wronged this group that sent them away. Like they did something to disappoint them. They did something specifically that they knew would not be acceptable. It feels like this is more of a social conflict, or also something like financially motivated, or like the two. Like perhaps subject A knew that there was a social issue that would be between their group and the other group. I should give the groups names. Okay, so this is group A with subject A, and this is group B. Group B. So that will make more sense, I guess. Seems like group A knew that they would have some disagreement. Feels like more of a belief system conflict between group A and group B, and they use that to their financial advantage. That's what it's feeling like. And subject A has now gotten themselves into, it feels like a situation they can't come back from, like the consequences. When I have subject A here kind of by themselves in this room, they're like really feeling bad about the consequences. Like there's nothing they can do to fix the situation with group B. Yeah, another deduction, possibly, it kind of feels like this, like as I look around this room, like this is the last kind of state that I see subject A in at this target, and it's honestly just like a depressing place. There's not really much in this room. Like there's some like dim lighting. Other than that, yeah, I'm not really seeing much of anything in here. And my deduction would be that this subject maybe is in like legal trouble, like this group of subjects is in legal trouble, like not, perhaps this is like a jail cell, like a deduction, this is like a jail cell or prison cell or something, like as these subjects are being, like group A is moved away from their like typical environment, possibly like against their will. That's what it's feeling like. So that is what I have at this target.
Okay, so let's draw some conclusions about these data. April 2023 is going to be an interesting month. What we want to look for is anything that shows up in sessions for multiple remote viewers. Think of our human news sessions as an early warning detector for anything major that may happen in the month. For our April results, Intysam seems to report on major protests in an urban area. It is almost like a stampede, and I wonder if this might have something to do with the escalating protests in Israel in April. Kahmia reports on some type of experiment on human subjects. The experiment is designed to help people, but apparently it fails. Shantae reports on possible financial trouble for a female and her followers, possibly ending in jail time. Yeme describes what looks like a terrorist event in a major urban area with explosions, blaring horns, and lots of people running. Finally, my own session focuses on a missile launch from a facility or town. The missile lands in the water. Now, what is really interesting about these sessions is that they are very diverse. This means that there is no one single major event that dominates the news in April 2023. But this also means that we will have a nice opportunity to evaluate a diverse collection of news events with respect to these sessions, which makes April a great experiment. An interesting month. Let's watch the month of April roll out and see what actually happens. So that is it for our April 2023 edition of Farsight's Human News, the news before it happens. Thank you for watching. Please also join us next month in May of 2023 for another look into the future of Earth humans. Also on FarsightPrime.com, be sure to look out for our next major mysteries project that will appear in April, the cigar-shaped UFO, What, Who, and Why, our live stream events, the Farsight ET News, the next episode for our new show, Identified Flying Objects with Intysam and Lincoln Lounsbury, the next highly unusual intelligence briefing where we will explain more about UFOs that we record with our own cameras, the Farsight Monthly Podcast, the Motorcycle Diaries, and remember, we do Farsight at Farsight. Farsight is our style of remote viewing, and vocabulary is important in these changing times. I am Aziz Brown from Farsight. Stay ahead of the curve. Let the mainstream fade in the dust. Be there now.